Right, so next up on our agenda, I would like to welcome a man who is very inspiring, a man who has a genuine passion for mental health, a man who is the natural leader, but also guides the youth extensively in his work. And he's very keen on community, like he always says, community, community, community. Despite all the things that he has experienced throughout his life, that for some people can be just completely shattering, he has managed to have such a resilience in overcoming those things and still have a life which I would like to say is full of well-being. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome His Worshipful Mr. Mayor, Cllr Martin Round.
Thank you so much, Destiny, for those wonderful words. Perhaps I should give them a bit more explanation, because some people don't know me as well as you do. I am the mayor, and because I'm the mayor, everybody expects me to be the figurehead, and often the figurehead of everything that's good and right. When I walked into this room, I heard many words, many even confessions, many statements, many beliefs. There were a lot of good words expressed, but my first instinct was none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. Many of us make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes and accidents happen to us. Sometimes they're of our own making, sometimes they're of somebody else's making. The art of well-being is recovering from them and coping with them. That's not always easy. It can be mighty tough for many people. I was one of them, and it may surprise people when I confess to this. I've tried committing suicide 3 times in my life. I did that at a time when my life was very, very cruel to me. I was one of the world's most successful people in the 80s. I was rich, I had everything I needed. Basically, at that time, it was a big, posh, 4-bedroomed house, a swimming pool, a company car, a helicopter that took me to work. I was one of the world's aspiring people that got the greatest success out of the 80s. I was then a managing director of a multi-corporation. Most people will have heard of it. It's called PepsiCo or Pepsi-Cola. I was a European International Director of Operations for their fast food company. That European Director of Operations was basically nothing to do with Pepsi-Cola, the drink, because PepsiCo run massive food operations. And my history, my career was based on food, mainly on chicken and egg products. One of my responsibilities was introducing Kentucky Fried Chicken to this country in the 1980s. Little did I know how successful it was going to be. I mean, I did imagine it was going to be fairly successful, but I then finished up not only running Kentucky Fried Chicken throughout England, Scotland, then it was Wales, then it was Ireland, then it was Denmark, then it was Iceland, then it was France, then it was Holland, then it was South Africa. And I was still called European Operations, even though I was in South Africa. That was the chicken world mainly, and supplying a supply chain, as it's known. How do you get the chicken? Where do you get the chicken from? Not only making a shop and all the other things that went with it. And controlling millions of pounds worth of money in the 1980s. So that would have been worth billions now. I left the chicken world of Pepsi-Cola and then went into the egg world, and a certain lady called Edwina Currie, who very few people will remember or know if you're under the age of a certain age. Edwina Currie then said all the eggs in this country are tainted with salmonella, when I was actually exploring the egg business. Having said that, she made my business very, very successful, because the bad news meant that my company, I had just mastered the art of pasteurising the egg. Everybody had pasteurised milk. They pasteurised everything else. I was responsible for a company that just mastered the art of pasteurising egg at a time when microwaves were just going into people's kitchens, and cooked chill food and microwavable dinners were available in Marks and Spencer's. It changed my world. I became very successful, even more successful, and pretty mega rich very quickly. And yet there I was about to go and sell this food product that I developed to a company called McCain when somebody drove straight into me. I had the world's most colossal accident. And if I can just borrow that chair here, for those people that can't see it, to all intents and purposes, I may look fairly ordinary. I look okay for my age. Hopefully I do anyway. I don't look too badly, and I can put on a decent suit and cover up a multitude of sins. If I sit down, I'll show you that I'm quite, I hate the word, disfigured and somewhat disabled. I'm standing and walking fine. I feel fine. But bearing in mind I was very successful economically and professionally, I'd also been selected to play for England rugby team. I was also a pretty successful rugby player. Most things in my life were success. They were richness, they were wonderful. But as I sit down, you might start noticing a few other things. As I sit here, you will possibly see this. You may not. That leg is 3 inches shorter than that one. 5 centimetres in new language, 3 inches in old language. On the inside of my shoe are what known as prosthetics to raise the inside of me here. From this knee onwards, up here, into here, there are titanium plates. There is a plate down here, a plate down there, and pins across here with a big plate here. When I go through an X-ray machine, particularly at Amsterdam Airport, it looks like a sawn-off shotgun stuck inside my leg. Even now, it's agony. I cope. This knee was completely obliterated, and that is the only bit of me, this arm is the only bit of me that really is totally me. Because as I move to the other arm, that's all I can do with that one. I can't do any more with that, because half of this elbow's been cut out. Because when I had a road accident and that person drove into me, straight, direct, I was only doing 23 miles an hour. He was doing 78. I also had a 7-ton truck behind me. It was at the top of the hill. I couldn't see it happening. He shouldn't have been able to see me at all. So why he overtook, goodness only knows. But it was a head-on collision. So the dashboard came straight in, broke all my leg and knee around this area. The camshaft came up here, broke the elbow, and took the arm out. 1989, very few cars had airbags. Luckily, mine did. Executive cars were probably the only cars that did have airbags in those days. But the airbag meant my face went straight into the airbag, but the steering wheel went straight into my chest. The whole engine came forward. My foot touched the brake because I wanted to touch the brake. It's an instinctive reaction. Nothing broke to the knee. From here onwards, it was a bag of chips. The bag of chips are still inside me, some of them. Executive car again. I had a glass sunshine roof. So as I went forward, the glass sunshine roof all smattered and went down here. And still to this day, if I sunbathe in the sun, I get spots with glass coming out. I basically live in agony 24 hours a day with a hip and a base of spine that is really wonky and is commonly known by the surgeons as a shepherd's crook spine. I depend on, well, I carry morphine. I don't always use it. But I have a number of forms of tablets that are regularly available to me. But that's taken me 35 years to cope with. After the accident, I was potentially between life and death for 3 days. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. 3 months later, they actually said, "You'll never ever walk again." So I think I've done pretty well. But back to the point of being here. When I started trying to cope with life after being a successful sportsman, successful businessman, and a bit of a celebrity in other shapes and forms, I thought I was a complete failure. I thought I'd lost it all. I didn't want to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Every time I tried to get out of that wheelchair, I kept falling down. I thought, what was the point? So that was the first occasion when I actually tried to commit suicide. For 7 years, I struggled to get out of that wheelchair. But for the fact that it still is a lump in my throat talking about it, and there's a few tears welling in my eyes now. But for certain medical professionals, that helped me, then I probably would have succeeded in committing suicide and probably wouldn't be here. So whilst an accident nearly killed me, it would probably been suicide that was made me closer to death than the actual accident did. The only way I found my own well-being was by having a sick sense of humour and a rigorous fortitude that was probably described by others as being pompous and arrogant, but that sense of humour really helped. The other thing that really helped, and I'm going to get back up now, were words that I saw when they were up there when I came in. And there are other words that I've seen here, and I keep on emphasising it, and Destiny, you said it. Community, community, community. We're all part of a small community. We may be part of a small church community. You may be part of a larger Shepway or Parkwood community. You are part of a Maidstone community. You are part of a Kent community. You're part of a Britain community. You're part of a world community. The best way community works is all when we live for each other, work for each other, live and help each other, coordinate and love each other. And if we can all give each other a bit of love and give each other a bit of understanding, and words I also like to use, especially when I see uniformed people over there, is a bit of respect and a bit of responsibility, not only for others, but for yourself. When somebody talks about cleanliness and things like that, that's about self-respect. You have to have self-respect and you have to have respect for others. And if you're in the community, and this is where Maureen and I are completely different politics, but I bet she and I have one thing in common. A, we're community activists. We believe in community and community and community. But the other thing I know that we will always believe in is that people have to come first. People are what our community is all about, and people is something that we always have to learn to cherish and love. And if it wasn't for other people, I definitely wouldn't be here. An occupational therapist, a psychiatrist, and what's known as an occupational therapist really got me through. They basically thought the best thing they can do to Martin is take him in his wheelchair to a swimming pool and throw him in a swimming pool. And from that moment, I realised it's like a metaphor. Put you in a really difficult situation. Not only did I learn to float, I was a very good swimmer. But after 5 years of never doing anything other than a wheelchair, most of my muscles were very weakened. So I had to regrow those muscles and that strength again. But as a metaphor, physically I started rebuilding, and then mentally I started rebuilding. I eventually went onto a Zimmer frame. I then eventually went onto walking sticks. And then I started to regain some strength and mental composure. Unfortunately, I had another titanium implant as well. That did help. And I just grew in strength and found another career, another background, although what's known as I transferred a lot of the skills from that. But back to where Destiny was originally when he introduced me, is that it is about mental fortitude, but you need to find it. It's very difficult for some people to find that, and if you can find it in a community group, in a church, in a youth group, wonderful. What you will be doing is you'll be doing it within a community, and that's why I keep on saying community, community, community. You will find your salvation in a community, whatever that community is. You will find friends in that community. You will find common souls, common hearts, common loves in a community. For a community to work, you have to give to it as well as take from it. And therefore, I could preach forever and take from all my own experiences, but the one thing that always gives me strength is my community. My community is basically Headcorn, 10 miles down the road, but my smaller community is Headcorn, my bigger community is Maidstone, where despite my non-affiliation politically with people like Maureen, is where I still find friends, because we're in the same community together, and we just have to fight in a slightly different way for the same things that we probably jointly believe in. We're all different. Let's face it, none of us are the same. So therefore, let's work it out together and learn to love each other a bit. That's the best thing about community. I'll stop now. Thanking you very much indeed.
Very well said. Very well said.